Hi, today we're making the Rylan sweater, and this is a size 3 months. It goes all the way up to 4T in the written pattern. Today I will show you how to make size 3 months. So follow along and I hope you enjoy. Alright, so let's get started with our supplies. I am using Lion brand Wool Ease, and it's a number 4 medium yarn. And so it also suggests using a J hook or a 6mm. So if you have a different number 4 yarn, that is fine. I will show you how to make a gauge swatch, and that will be really important to getting the right size. And you might just need a different hook size than what I'm using, which again is the J. And you need a ruler and some scissors, tapestry needle, and then I will be using a stitch marker. If you don't have those on hand, you could just use a scrap of yarn instead. All right. So those are the supplies. Okay, so I'm getting started with my gauge swatch. So you'll need your ruler for this. And so we are going to chain 13. So we're just making a slip knot on the hook. All right, yarn over and pull through for 13 times. All right, so once you have 13, we will single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So that one is right there. Oop. Pull up a loop and pull through. So insert your hook and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through. So do that in each loop here for the chains. All right, so when you get to the end of your row, you will chain 1 and turn and insert your hook in the first single crochet and pull up a loop and just keep on going all the way across. And you'll do the same thing when you get to the end of this row. Just chain 1 and turn, and we will continue that for a total of 14 rows. And that will include row 1. So I'll show you the end of this row and then I'll pause until I get to the end of my gauge swatch. Okay, so chain 1 and turn. All right, so I'll pause here and keep going until we reach a total of 14 rows. Okay, so I have my gauge swatch here, and I did 14 rows of 12 single crochets in each row. And so I just wanted to show you that you can, the best, most accurate way is to use a blocking mat and the pins. Each of these is a 1-inch square, and so you can pin this out and see if it's a 4x4-inch square. Okay, so you can see mine's a 4x4-inch square. If yours is a 1/4 inch smaller, that's fine, or bigger, that's fine. If it's more like a 1/2 inch smaller, I would try for a larger hook, like a 6.5mm. The J hook is a 6mm. If it's too big, then try a smaller hook, like maybe a 5.5mm. You just want to get as close to the 4x4 as possible for the sizing to be accurate in the pattern. Okay? So there is your gauge swatch, and once you have that, we will get started. All right, so we're going to start with the top of the yoke, and the same way that we did the gauge swatch. So just tie a slip knot onto your hook, and for the size 3 months we are chaining 37. So the pattern will have, of course, the number of chains for whatever size you're doing. So, but for 3 months we're chaining 37. Okay, so I have my 37, and now we're going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain across. So insert in that second chain right there and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through, and single crochet in each one. And so of course when we're done with this row we'll have 36 single crochets because we had that chain 1 where we skipped the first chain in the row, and so that one does not count. So 36 total. Okay, so I have my 36 single crochets, and for row 2 we're just going to chain 1 and then single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So we're not skipping anything, just right into that first one and single crochet. And throughout this pattern, that chain 1 at the beginning of the row does not count as a stitch, so you can just ignore that in your stitch count and only do the single crochets. So you'll just want to count at the end of this row or even the last row and just make sure you have the number that the pattern says. Okay, so we've come to the end of that row, and now we are to the first increase. So we will chain 1, and so an increase is just 2 single crochets in the same stitch, and that's gonna make this start to curve around the neck. All right, so the pattern is 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So we're just doing 2 right there in the same stitch. So then 1 single crochet and then 2 in the next stitch. There's our increase. So we'll be increasing all along this row in the same pattern. So at the end of this row we'll have 66 stitches for this size. All right. So just keep doing that the whole way across until you get to the end. Okay, so we're at the end of that first increase row, and it's a really good idea to go back and count and just make sure you have 66 stitches here. If you missed an increase, maybe got distracted, that's really easy to do, but you'll be messed up for the coming rows if that happens. And it should start to curve, of course. And I just wanted to mention, as I mentioned before, remember you don't single crochet into that chain 1. We're just, that's just to get us up to the next row. So your last stitch goes into the single crochet. All right, so then single crochet as many rows as needed until yoke height measures 2 1/4 inches. Oh, I'm sorry, no, 1 1/2 inches. Okay, so I just wanted to show you, so that just means chain 1, single crochet in each stitch. And of course we'll have a lot more with this row now, but now it's starting to grow. And so it's just going to have build up a little bit more here until we get to the next increase. So for this size, we're going to have 1 1/2 inches. And so it might take you 2 rows, might take 3 rows. It just depends on the size. I'll show you when I'm done with this, how much it will be for this size. So I'll show you how to measure when I get a little more towards the center here. Okay, so that took me 2 rows after the first increase, and I just wanted to put this on here to show you that's about, so what you want to do is measure from the center of the back neck. So this will be the back of the neck, and so just place your ruler perpendicular to that center back point, and we have about 1.5 inches. We're not being super precise, you know, that's as long as it's about 1.5 inches. Okay. Okay, so now we're ready for the second increase. So the second increase, I chained 1, and then we're just going to do 2 single crochets and then increase. 2 single crochets in the same stitch. Oop. Here's 1, 2, and then 2 in the same stitch. Okay, so just continue to do that the whole way across, and that will be our second increase. Okay, so at the end of the second increase, you should have 72 stitches. So just go ahead and go back and count and just make sure you have 72. You didn't skip any increases. Okay, and so now we're going to single crochet as many rows as needed until we get to 2 3/4 inches. Okay, so we'll just measure the yoke in the same way we did before as we go. So maybe just after each row, go ahead and measure, and just as many as we'll need until 2 3/4 inches. So here's my first row. I'm going to go ahead and okay, so I just did 2 rows of single crochets, and that took me to pretty close to 2 3/4 inches. Okay, now we're on to the third increase. So we'll chain 1 and 3 single crochets now, and then the increase. So 2 in the same stitch. All right, so 3 single crochets, and then 2 in the same stitch, and then when we're done with this row, we should have 90 stitches. So I'll go ahead. Okay, so I think you know the pattern here now. So we have just finished our third increase, and so that made 90 stitches in the last row there. So now we are going to work even. So just chain 1 single crochet until your yoke height measures 4 1/4 inches. Okay, and you can kind of start to see it's starting to look like a little, you can kind of see how it's starting to look like a sweater almost. Okay, so it's kind of fun. Okay, so just chain 1. I'm going to go ahead and do that in single crochet, and I'll let you know how many rows. So I have crocheted to 4 1/4 inches. So I have here a total of 16 rows, and I calculated I did 7 rows after the third increase. Okay, so now we are ready for the sleeve separation. And this part is really fun because this is when it starts to look like a sweater, and it's actually a lot easier than it might initially look in the pattern. Okay, so basically the idea is this will be our yoke, and what we're going to do right now is separate out the sleeves. So these, about this much right here, is going to turn into the sleeve, and then we'll have the front of the cardigan and then the back. Okay, so I'll walk you through it. And once you understand it, it's really simple. Okay, so I chained 1, and I'm going to single crochet 14. Okay, so I single crocheted 14. And just to give you a point of reference, this will be the front left, say, of the cardigan. All right, chain 3. Okay, and then it will say skip 18. So we're going to skip 18 stitches, and that will form the sleeve. So I'm going to put my hook down so I can count, and I have my stitch marker close by. So I'm going to count 18 and put my stitch marker in the 18th stitch. So now I know I'm going to skip all these stitches, so that will form the sleeve. Okay. So now I'm going to pull that tight again, that little chain, insert my hook in this would be the 19th stitch, and now we're going to single crochet along the back, and we will single crochet 26 to form the back. Okay, so I've single crocheted 26, and now I will chain 3 again and repeat what we did on the other side but in reverse. Okay, so I'm going to grab that stitch marker and we'll count 18 again. Okay, put that in the 18th stitch. Okay, and then we'll have 14 stitches left for the other front. All right, so you can just kind of fold that back in half, tighten that up, insert it in the next single crochet after the stitch marker, and just single crochet to the end. Okay, so that is our sleeve separation. Okay, and when you turn it right, or turn it flat here, you can see we have the front of the cardigan, and then you open it up, and so now we are just going to be working along here, and we're going to ignore, we'll be working back and forth, and we'll ignore the sleeves, and we'll come back to the sleeves at the end. Okay, so now we are starting the body. Okay, so row 1, we will just chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch, and we will have 60 stitches when we're done with this row. And when we get to the chain stitches, we will just work into those as we normally would work into chains. I'll show you when we get there. One more single crochet there for the front. And then we have our 3 chain stitches, so we just work in those as usual, and that top little loop. Okay, and then we'll just keep going across the back of the sweater, and I will just single crochet across this whole back in the chain 3 again, and then to the end of the row here. So that will be our first body row. Okay, so I finished that row and I had 60 stitches, and now we'll move on to the first bobble row. Okay, so it will say row 2, chain 1, then it has 0, parentheses 3, 4, 1, 4, 2, single crochet. Now that means you will do that once. So let's say I was working on the size 6 months. It says 3 single crochets, so I would do 3 single crochets, and then there's the star. So you only do this part once, the 3 single crochets, and then there's a star, and then we'll start our bobble pattern repeat. The reason for that is just your bobble repeat is a multiple of 10, and so we wanted to make sure that it comes out evenly. So just to let you know in case you're confused by that, for the size 3 months it says 0 single crochet. That's because it's an even 60 stitches in this row, so we don't need those little buffer stitches at the beginning. So we're gonna start with the star. Okay, so the star says 4 single crochet, and then bobble. So bobble is yarn over. It's basically a 5 double crochet together cluster. So yarn over, insert in the next stitch, pull up a loop, draw through 2 loops, just like we're starting a double crochet, but then we don't finish it. We do that 4 more times in the same stitch. Okay, so There's my second part of a double crochet, my third, fourth, and fifth. And so when you look, you'll be able to see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little partial double crochets in there and 6 loops on the hook. So yarn over and pull through, and we're going to pop the bobble out. So pop it like that way, don't let it go that way, and then just do a single crochet in the next stitch, and this will kind of finish things off. Just keep that tight. Okay, so then it says 5 single crochet. Okay, so there is our bobble stitch pattern, and you'll see on this side you have your fun little bobble. And so now we will start from the star again. So let's do that together. So 3, 4 single crochet, and then the bobble. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yarn over and pull through, pop it up, and do your single crochet. You just kind of got to pull that one tight. So 1, 2, 3, 5. Okay, so now we've done 2 bobble patterns. So you just keep doing that the whole way across. And for the size 3 months, you'll go all the way to the end with that repeat. For the other sizes, you'll have some stitches left over, and it will say in the pattern how many you should have left over, and you just single crochet in those. Okay, so I just finished that row. With my 60 stitches, I ended up with 6 bobbles, so 6 pattern repeats. And now I'm just going to work even for the next 3 rows. So chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch. The whole way across. And when you get to the bobble, you can kind of see where that kind of when you tilt it from the back, it kind of just looks like a single crochet, and kind of those 2 loops there. So that's how you'll know where to insert your hook. Okay, so for 3 rows, we just work across. Okay, so I just finished my 3 single crochet rows after that bobble row. And so now we're going to do another bobble row, but we will stagger the bobbles from the previous row. So this one also has the same beginning as the other bobble row. So whatever you did last time, however number of single crochets the pattern said, you will do that again. This one had 0 since it was an even 60. So we are just going to do 9 single crochets and then the bobble. Okay, and you'll be able to see that that's going to stagger the bobbles, so that will be good. Okay, so then you just repeat 9 single crochets and then the bobble the whole way across, and then you'll finish with the last few single crochets, or 0 as in this one, but you can see how it's going to stagger the bobbles and give that cute little effect. Okay, so I came to the end of that row, And I just wanted to show you what it actually says for the size 3 months. Instead of putting a bobble in that last stitch on the very end, just put a single crochet there because there's nowhere to finish it off in that last stitch. If you want, you could put a bobble in the second to last stitch and then single crochet in the last one. Or you can just follow the pattern and do 10 single crochets to the end so you don't have like this weird bobble right on the end there. Okay, so now we're just going to chain 1 and turn, and the rest is easy. So we're just going to do 3 rows of single crochet, and then we start again with this bobble row here with our pattern repeat. So you'll just repeat this bobble row and then 3 rows of single crochet, repeat this bobble row, 3 rows of single crochet, and you keep repeating that 8 row repeat until the sweater reaches 8 inches in height. So what you'll do is you'll measure in the same way from the back center neck here. Just find your sleeves and then the approximate center there. Keep going until your sweater, it's kind of dark, but until your sweater reaches 8 inches total from the neck. And you might not repeat the 8 rows an even number of times. Just stop when you get to 8 inches there. And then, okay, so I was able to get 4 rows of bobbles, and then I have a single crochet row after the last bobble row, 8 1/4. Okay, so now we'll move on to the ribbing. So we chain 2, and that chain 2 counts as a double crochet, and so we're going to skip the first single crochet and single crochet into the next stitch. I'm sorry, double crochet into the next stitch, and then we're going to double crochet all the way across this row. Okay, so I've double crocheted the whole way across to the end of that row, and now we are going to chain 2 and turn, and now we're going to start our front and back post double crochets. So just yarn over, and we're skipping this double crochet right here, and we're going to go around the post of the second double crochet. So we just, instead of inserting it up here, we'll go around this post right there and then double crochet. So that way it's kind of laying on top there. So I'll show you the other side. There's the back post double crochet, and I'll show you again. Okay, so here's the front post. And then for the back post, we're just going around there, around towards the back. Okay, so the back, you kind of flip it over. Oop, so you can see. So from the front, it will look like that. You'll see your crochet hook, and from the back, like that. And grab it and pull it through that way. So there's the front post. And then the back, we just go up and over. Okay, so okay, so I've just gotten to the end. I've done my last back post double crochet, and for the very last step here, see there's my last stitch, and it doesn't matter if your last stitch is in the back or in the front, you'll still do the same thing next. You'll yarn over and then insert your hook in the top of the chain 2 and double crochet. And that will finish the row. So for the next row, chain 2 and turn. And we just do the same thing. Skip that little end stitch. We're going to front post double crochet on the ones that are on top, and we'll back post double crochet on the ones that are on the back. And we'll just keep doing that the whole way across. Okay, and so I'm starting to run out of yarn at this point, and so I thought maybe you were too, so I will show you how to add new yarn in. The best place to do it is at the top of a stitch, whether it's a single crochet or a double crochet. I like to do it there. So I'll do the stitch, and before I yarn over for the very last step, I just stop right there with 2 loops on the hook, and I grab my new yarn and just lay it over. That's essentially your yarn over, and pull through. So you can just kind of pull that, both of those little tails tight, and I grab them with my pinky back here and pull them nice and tight and hold on to them until I have done a few stitches. So well, maybe just 1 or 2 stitches, and then go back and just give them a little tug to make sure that they're pulling tight, and then you can weave those in. Okay, so I just again got to my last back post double crochet, and I'm just going to double crochet in the top of the chain 2 to finish that off. But it's kind of pulling, so I don't really like it when it does that. It kind of pulls that up there. You can just go into the whole stitch there, like into the space. And I almost think that works better for this situation. Okay, so we can cut the yarn and pull that through. And then we should tie this off and weave it in. I kind of just like to put this in and tie it off since there's no knot there. It's sort of optional. But then just weave in all my little tails everywhere. So just go through and have it go back and forth, and maybe down these stitches and around. I always find it's helpful to go into some tighter stitches just so it doesn't pop out, and then go back over the same stitches. So, and when I cut it, I will just pull it a little bit and cut, and then it will pop back into the stitch. Okay, so you can see it's right now you basically have a short sleeve sweater, although you could add a couple rows, but anyway, so you can see it's starting to look like your little baby sweater there. So I'm just going to go through and weave. Okay, so now we're going to do this neckline here, finish off this with some ribbing. So I'll take the yarn and tie a slip knot onto the hook. And insert into the corner. So I am inserting right there. Remember, these were our chain stitches from the beginning of the sweater. So I'm putting it under the 2 loops that form the bottom of the chain stitch. And chain 2. Actually, that first one is just like a slip stitch, and pull that tight, and then chain 2. Okay, and then start double crocheting in the top of each, or in, I guess it's the bottom of each chain stitch the whole way across. Okay, so I just finished my double crochet across that neck edge up there, and now we're going to chain 2 and do the same exact thing that we did for the hem, except we're only going to do 1 row of front and back post double crochets. So chain 2 and turn, and skip that first double crochet and start with your front and back. All right, so just work that the whole way across and that in the front and back posts. Okay, so I just finished those front and back posts and double crocheted in the top of the chain 2 or in the chain 2 space. We're going to cut that, pull through, and then weave in those loose ends there. Okay, so we're going to start on the button band, which is the wearer's right. So that would be this side here. So for right-handed crocheters, we're going to start at the bottom down here. And if you're left-handed, you would just start up here and single crochet down this way. But we're going to start down here. So again with the slip knot, insert down at the bottom corner, and we're going to be single crocheting up the end. Approximately 1 single crochet will go into the end of each row all the way up to the top. So we're going to start here at the ribbing and single crochet. So I have one there and put one here. This part is more of an art than a science. So you're just wanting to make sure everything lays flat and doesn't stick out in any too funky of a way. So approximately 1 single crochet in the end of each row. If it starts to pucker or ripple, then puckering will mean your single crochets are too close together. If it ripples, that means you have too many single crochets. You just want to spread them out a little more. Okay, so when you get up to the ribbing here, just try to do the same thing as you did in the beginning and just I'm doing about 3 here for the ribbing, just so it lays flat. Okay, so we have that first row of single crochets. So this is the side where the buttons will be sewed onto. So we're just going to have a total of 3 rows, 3 to 4 rows, depending on the size and the width of the buttons. But here's the second row of single crochets. So if our buttons are about 3/4 of an inch, then we'll do 3 rows. Okay, so that was the end of the second row there, and then we're just going to chain 1 and turn for 1 more row. And when you get to the end, you'll just tie off. Okay, so we have the button band finished, and now we're going to do the buttonhole band. So we're going to turn it this way. This is the wearer's left, and same procedure. So just go ahead and start up here, and you're going to single crochet down this side, and then I'll show you how to do the buttonholes in row 2. Okay. Okay, so we're just finishing up this first row of single crochets. Okay, chain 1 and turn. And now for our buttonholes, we will do 3 single crochets to start. Okay, so then chain 1 and skip 1 stitch, and that will make our buttonhole. So now I'm doing 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then for the next buttonhole, it's the same thing. You just chain 1, skip 1, and do 6 single crochets. So we're just going to keep doing that all the way up. Until we run out of stitches. Your buttons closer together, you could just have fewer stitches in between each buttonhole. If you want them further apart, you can have more stitches. It's up to you. If you have larger buttons, 1 inch or larger, you could chain 2 and skip 2, and that would make a larger buttonhole that's good for 1 inch or larger. Okay, so my last buttonhole was right here, and then I had 6 more stitches to the end, and that's fine. So then I'll show you what to do next. So for the last row of this, you will chain 1 and turn. Oop, I'm grabbing the tail. Okay, so now we're just going to single crochet in each stitch. And when you get to that chain 1, you just single crochet in that chain 1 space. Okay, so here it is right there. So I'll single crochet in that space, and I'll make the hole a little bit more obvious. Okay, so then you just keep on going all the way down. You get to that chain 1 space. Just go right in there. So that'll be your second buttonhole all the way to the end. Okay, so now we're going to start the sleeve. So go ahead, and I like to start with a slip knot on the hook. Okay, and then we will just find the center right here where we had those 3 chain stitches, and we had already crocheted in those on the bottom for the body, and now we're going to crochet in the top of those stitches. It's okay if you go in between the stitches too. Our goal here will just be to find approximately the middle right there. Oh, almost. There we go. Okay, so we'll bring that up and do our first single crochet right there. And then another one. Oh. You can put it in the top of the chain stitch or between the stitches, that's fine, but just try to have 2 down here. And then we're just going to keep going around. Oh. Okay, so right here there's like a little, this is the side of this row right here, and so right here there can tend to be a little hole there because you want to go into this first single crochet right there. So sometimes I will just single crochet these together, kind of like a little, just to prevent a hole right there. And then we just keep working our way around all the way around the little arm there. And you'll recognize this from before. We had 18 stitches that we skipped. So now we will have 18 single crochets, plus we had the 3 chain stitches along the bottom, and we're going to single crochet in those. We already did 2. And so when we come back around, we'll do that other 1. So your total stitch count will be the 18 plus 3 so 21. Okay, and so again, I'm coming here to just to that end of that row, and I don't want there to be a hole. So I'm just going to do the next two like a single crochet together right there. Okay, and then one more into that chain stitch. So now we've done all three of the chain stitches at the bottom there, and we're not going to join, we're going to chain one and turn. So you can join if you want to do it that way, but we're just going to work it flat, and then at the end we'll stitch it together. Okay, so chain one and turn. So then for row 2, we just single crochet in each of those stitches all the way around. Okay, so just coming to the end of that row 2, just single crochet in each stitch. And the pattern just says to chain one and turn, and we're going to keep crocheting rows exactly like that until you reach a certain number of inches, and for this size it's 1.5 inches. So when you measure, you can just take your ruler and just measure. You can measure along this edge right here. That's probably the easiest place. So far we've done 2 rows and it's about 1/2 inch. So keep going until you get to 1.5 inches. Okay, so I've reached my 1.5 inches, and now we're ready for the first decrease. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, and this is a single crochet 2 together. So there are 2 ways to single crochet 2 together. There's probably more actually, but I'll show you the easiest way first. You just insert your hook in the first stitch and come up through the next stitch right there. So then you just wrap your yarn, pull through, and now we've single crocheted 2 together. So that's the easiest. I'll show you one that's a little bit neater. You just go through the front loop of the first one, and then through the front loop of the second one. Wrap your yarn, go through both of those, and finish. Then it looks still a little bit messy, but once you do the next stitch, it kind of all tightens up and it looks really nice. Oops, sorry. Right there. Okay, so then we just keep going. All right, so we'll single crochet until there's 2 stitches left in this row, and then we're going to single crochet 2 together again at the end of this row. So I'll show you that again. Okay, so I have 2 stitches left here. Move this so you can see better. Okay, so we go in through the first. I'll show you the easiest way first. In through the first stitch, and then up through the second stitch. Yarn over and pull through. Okay, and then the other way is just through the first loop of both of the, you kind of have to like exaggerate your movements here, just through the front loop of both of those. So then you have your 2 stitches on your hook there. Yarn over and then just pull through both of them. Okay, so that's how we've done our first decrease. And each decrease that you'll get to, you'll do the same way. You'll decrease at the beginning of the row and then just single crochet until you have 2 left, and then decrease at the end of the row. So now we chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to single crochet in each stitch until we reach our next inch marker. So for this one, until the sleeve length reaches 2.5 inches. And that's, so the second one, it means total, you know, until sleeve length reaches 2.5 inches total. So not measuring from here, measuring from the beginning there. Okay, so just have about probably 3 rows for me to get to 1/2 inch or 2.5 inches. Okay, so just keep working even until we get to that. Okay, so I've crocheted to a total of 2.5 inches, and now I'm ready for the second decrease. So just as before, I'm going to go through the front loop and the front loop, pull through both loops. All right, and that's the first decrease, and then we'll single crochet until there's 2 stitches left. Okay, so we have 2 stitches left. So I'm going to go through the front loop and the front loop again, pull through both those loops and finish the single crochet. So chain 1 and turn, and now we'll work even again. So just continue single crocheting in each stitch and chain 1 and turn until the sleeve length reaches 4.5 inches from the start once again. So we'll just keep going, and after a few rows I'll start measuring until we reach 4.5 inches. Okay, so now we're ready to start the ribbing. And you can see the ribbing adds about 1.5 inches to the length of the sleeve. So we're going to do the same ribbing as we did for the bottom. So whatever you have right here, if you want to try the sweater on, you will know that the ribbing will add about 1.5 inches. So you could see how it's fitting if you want. If you have your child to try close by, you could have them try it on. Okay. So for the ribbing, we will chain 2, just as we did before, and turn, skip the first single crochet, and double crochet in each stitch across. That's one reason why I like to work these small sleeves flat, is because it's a lot easier to do the front and back post stitches when we get to that next. It's a lot easier to do it when it's flat than in the round. So, but it's up to you if you want to work it flat or in the round. But I like to do it this way. Okay, so we double crocheted the first row. Now we're going to chain 2 and turn. So So we're going to skip this first double crochet, and we're just going to start with our front and back post double crochets. So we're just going around this first stitch in the front and around the next one in back, just as we did before. So front post double crochet and then back post, and just keep going like that. Okay, and so ended off here with a front post double crochet right there, and then we'll double crochet in the top of the chain 2 to finish off this row. Okay, and chain 2 and turn. Okay, so now we are going to we'll back post on, so this was a front post, but now we've turned, and so the easiest way for me to remember is to just mirror what you see. So if it's in the back, you want to keep it in the back. So we'll start with a back post double crochet, and then this one's in front. So we'll do front post double crochet, the back post. So then as we go, we're just building on what's already there. So the back post stay in the back and the front post stay in the front. Okay, so just do that the whole way across, and then you'll double crochet in the top of the chain 2. Okay, so I've reached the end of that row, and I am going to double crochet in the top of this chain 2. Okay, so before we cut here, we want to leave a long tail for creating the seam. So the easiest way to do that is I just usually measure 2 lengths. So 1, 2 lengths of the sleeve. So then you'll know you have enough yarn. Okay, so then we're going to pull that loop through to finish it off. Okay. And then I like to turn it inside out, just in case the stitches show or get a little messy, and then it's all on the inside. So then you have your long string, and you can grab your tapestry needle. Okay, and I'm just going to start by weaving in this little tail that was from when we started the sweater, the sleeve. And that's out of the way. Okay, so we just want to make sure this is nice and flat and even, and the yarn, the rows line up there, and it's straight. And this is a really short little sleeve, nice and cute, so it's pretty easy to line up. Okay. So I'm going to start I like to do a little knot. Oop, there you are. I like to do a little knot here first. So here we have this, we finished this stitch, it's kind of hanging out there. So I'll just go through here on the other side and then go back through the same stitches again and make a knot there. That way we really know it's secure. Okay, and then I'll line up the cuff right there, and we can do a whip stitch along here. So I am just inserting in the stitches, oh, sorry about that. I'm just inserting in the stitches here at the end so that I can close this up. So this is just a standard whip stitch. I'll just line up the rows. Here I'm to the end of the cuff here. Just insert through, I like to do through 2 stitches, and then, or I'm sorry, at least 2 threads of yarn. You could do it through 1 if you want. I just like to do 2, just feels a little bit more stable to me. Okay, and then as you go, just make sure, just check every once in a while to see that your rows are lining up. And I like to do at least 1 stitch in the end of each row. If not 2. It takes a little while, but then I just know it's secure if I do it that way. Okay, so just keep stitching like that. Okay, so I'm just coming to the end of my little sleeve here. So I've got this all stitched, and I just have this little hole at the end here, finishing up the armpit. And then this is another point of stress on the sweater, where it might be most likely just to get the most pulling or wearing. So I'll just do a few extra stitches around here. And then I know we mentioned before how sometimes there ends up being like a little hole with this style of sweater, but we close that off pretty well with the single crochet togethers. But if you do have a hole there, you can use this opportunity to just close that up too. Okay, so I'll just put a few extra stitches here, and then my last stitch, I will make a knot. So I'm just going to do that again. Just go through the center, pull through, and then you just can hide your little tail there, and then, all right, and then you are done with your sleeve. So you can turn it back out. See how it looks. Okay, so cute. So you're on your way to your cute little sweater. Okay, so, and the same thing for the other sleeve. So just repeat those same steps. So now I'm all done with the sleeves, both sleeves, and we're ready to sew on the buttons. So this is our last step. So you'll just need your buttons and some thread, a sewing needle, and some scissors. So you'll just need is however 5 to 7 buttons, just depending on how many buttonholes you made. And then the thread to match your buttons. Okay. So let's see. So to begin with, we're going to find our buttonholes. So we have one up here. I like to start with one at the top and then one at the bottom, so I can make sure everything is even. Okay, so So you just want to lay your sweater, match up the collar so it's even. You have, so what I like to do is to take a pin and match up the button band with the buttonhole band and stick my pin through the hole, straight through to where I want it. And kind of pretend your pin is a button. Oop. Okay, so then peel that away so like that's kind of like your button. So then you just kind of have the general idea of, that's pretty good, of where you want your button. So, and then I'm just tying a knot here, and I'll go through, and once I have the first knot, just take that out, and then go ahead and do another knot. Okay. And then just sew on your button. I like to do the holes vertical. You could do them horizontal. Just looks nice if they're all the same. Okay, and then I usually try to do my knot underneath the button here instead of on the back of the sweater, because it just looks a little bit neater, because then if things get a little messy here, then it's all hidden under the button and it's not even showing on the back of the sweater. All right. Okay, so now go ahead and button that first one. Okay, so then what I like to do is go down and do the bottom one. So I will find the buttonhole down here. And again, line it up with the other, with where I want it on the, matching the button band on the other one. So just everything's straight the way I want it. So poke that straight through like it's a button, kind of. So, whoops, snagged the top there. Okay, so yes, because the last thing you want is to sew on a button and then get that all done and then find out it's in the wrong place. Okay, so then just I'll go ahead and sew that on. I won't show you that again. I think you probably got it. So then you'll just do the same thing with the other one. So then just take it slow and go one at a time, because you don't want to have to redo. So just kind of line up each one, go up and do your next one, find your hole, stick in your pin, and just keep on going till you have all your buttons sewed on. Then hopefully everything will lay nice and flat. All right, so that's that.